blessed to be in a very special home in Kasauli, which is reminiscent of history, of memorabilia, and most of all, of deep emotion. It's the home of the late B.K. Nehru, one of our most distinguished civil servants, diplomats, and later governor of so many states of India. And more importantly, I'm so deeply honored and blessed to be in conversation this morning with his wife, who we fondly refer to as Auntie Fori. She recalls her moments spent with the late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, who was a friend to Fori and who, of course, was B.K. Nehru's cousin. So let's now talk to Auntie Fori. Your late husband was a cousin of Mrs. Indira Gandhi.
That's right.
And when you met your late husband and when you fell in love and wanted to marry, I believe that your parents thought that he came from a family of jailbirds.
That's right.
So where did that notion come up and how? And how did you overcome
They
that?
heard about Jawaharlal and the whole Nehru clan. Then his parents came to Hungary, met my parents. My parents didn't know English. Biju's parents didn't know German or Hungarian. So we had a lawyer friend of ours sit with them who spoke perfect English. So they understood that I'm all right. When they came to my home,
Yes.
she's all right. Then they decided that I will go to India. Before my marriage, 1 full year, while Biju was in Oxford finishing. And I'd go live with them. And if after a year I don't like it, my parents-in-law are honor bound to send me back. Well, I was happy.
And you learned Hindi before you came to India?
Yes, Dr. Erwin Bakhtai, the Hungarian gentleman, professor, he taught me. He taught me.
And is it also true that even Mr. Nehru taught you through correspondence almost?
Through correspondence,
Yes.
yeah.
So you were proficient in Hindi before
Well,
you...
if not anyway, I wrote Devanagari. I read in Devanagari. And that's
And how old were you when you got married?
25.
25.
And he was 9 months younger than me.
So when did you first meet Jawaharlal?
Jawaharlal I met first the year I arrived, February 1934. My mother-in-law took me on a, not Bharat Darshan, family darshan. Family darshan, she took me to Allahabad, all over. In Allahabad, I met first Kamladita, Indu's mother. Then we flew to Calcutta, and Jawaharlal was in jail in Calcutta. And with us was Mrs. Pandit, my mother-in-law, and me. They couldn't see, they could see a relative or visitor once a month. So Jawaharlal was brought in, and I fell in love with him. He was so handsome. Then we talked. Then the jailer came very soon. I don't think we had more than an hour, and took him away. And I couldn't help but I had tears rolling down my eyes. And he looked back as he exited with the jailer, and looked back. And they could write a letter only once a month. Once a month visitor, once a month
Yes.
writing. And he wrote a letter to me. Very sweet, I have it with me. In which he said, please don't forget, we Nehrus keep an upper lip, which meant don't cry.
Yes.
And then we were he was all the time in jail.
So he obviously wasn't there for your wedding, but...
No.
yes,
And he sent me for my wedding, do you know what? A very bad fountain pen. An Indian-made fountain pen. बहुत खराब था. बहुत खराब था. Magar I kept it for years. And then it remained in Lahore, in Pakistan, after 47.
So what is your first memory of when you met Indira Gandhi? Then Indira.
Indu.
Indu.
I didn't meet her She was in Shanti Niketan at that time when I arrived. And when I went to Allahabad in 34 on family darshan, when I met Kamla Dida, she was in Shanti Niketan. And then Kamla Dida left a year later, year or year and a half later for Switzerland because she had TB, poor woman. And Indu, if I remember correctly, went with her. So we came to Allahabad to wish her goodbye. That was the first time. And then she remained in Switzerland. She went to Lausanne, she studied French, she spoke beautiful French. And
did you correspond at all at that time?
no.
Not at that time.
Not that I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so. Then she got married, we were present at her wedding. My husband, and the wedding took place in Swaraj Bhavan, not in Anand Bhavan. You know, Swaraj Bhavan was a place which they gave to the nation, much larger than Anand Bhavan. I met Kamla Dida in Anand Bhavan because my room was next to her when we first met in 34. But the wedding, by then, her wedding, she was dead. And this was in Swaraj Bhavan. My husband had to perform some ceremony, being first class. I don't know what it was, but he had to.
Right.
There was pharaohs in Indu.
Do you remember what she was wearing at her wedding?
Indu was wearing a beautiful pink sari, which was woven by Panditji in jail. He was so much in jail, he had time.
Yeah.
So he wove it there in Indu water. And that sari, Betty, is still in the Safdarjung Road
Right.
museum. Right? You can see it.
And thereafter, you, of course, you were related, but you also really became friends.
Yes, I think we were friends from the beginning. Whatever that means. Anna.
Yes. And it was also a time when you were adjusting to sort of India. Did you find a lot of sort of difficulties in adjusting to India and the family?
I don't think, not to the family. Each one of them was adorable and lovable and they loved me. I tell you, twice I cried. Twice. When I landed in Bombay, and my mother-in-law, father-in-law, they were all at the airport. Mrs. Krishna Harti Singh, Indu's aunt, they were at the airport. At the way, not the airport.
Yes.
Ship.
By ship, yes.
Yeah.
I came there.
And then we were taken home, and then I was taken first to, my father-in-law was at that time Accountant General of the Northern Railway.
Yes.
And that entitled him, Betty, to a saloon. No, I have never heard saloon. My husband said he's a poor man's son in London. We met my husband in 1930.
When you were at LSE?
Students, yes, student.
Yes.
This was in 34. And this man has a saloon. We had a dining room, a sitting room, rooms, and servants' quarters, staff quarters. Anyway, we landed in Gwalior, where a cousin's father was a divan. And we sat at dinner, and he asked me, आप हिंदी बोलते हैं? हाँ, बोलते हैं। तो आपको हिंदुस्तान का आबो हवा कैसा पसंद है? I said, मुझे हिंदुस्तान पसंद है, मगर आबो हवा क्या है? I didn't know what आबो हवा है.
Right. And thereafter, you, of course, you were related, but you also really became friends.
Yes, I think we were friends from the beginning. Whatever that means. Anna.
Yes. You saw her in so many roles, of course, as a daughter, and then as a wife, and as a mother, and later as a grandmother, you know. Sort of recall, let's go back to the beginning. I mean, how do you, how would you like to describe Indira, the daughter?
Loving. She took such care of Jawahar Bhai. I can't tell you. Like he was a child.
Right.
Jawahar Bhai was a child. Papu, ye mat karo. Papu, mat khao. Papu, ye papu se. He was like a child.
And how did she cope when he was in jail?
By the time she came to Delhi, he was not in jail. By then he was...
But when she was young, I mean, when she was young, did she ever share the trauma?
Darling, she was in Switzerland when her mother died, right? And then she went to Lausanne and she studied French. And then she went to Oxford. She was at Somerville College. And there she and Feroz decided they would get married. Then they came back and they got married.
Right. And then you later saw her as a mother when the boys came.
Adored her kids. Rajiv, and constantly playing with them. They had all kinds of little cards in the garden, you know, in Teen Murtiya. Jawahar Bhai loved animals, and he had one of the pandas from China.
Right, the panda, yes.
And she had the enclosure at the end of the garden, in front, and at the end. And she used to go every day to see. So the children learned to love animals from grandpapa.
From grandpapa. Right.
And Indu was constantly with the children. She was the hostess.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
She was the hostess.
Yes.
I remember once Mrs. Keller, you know, the blind.
Yes.
She came. I was called. Come meet her. So there was a big room in Teen Murti house on the top. She sat there with her, I forgot her name, the lady who looked after Mrs. Keller. Aisa baat karte the.
Yes.
Because she couldn't
see. That's right, yes.
How she looked after Mrs. Keller. With what love and affection. She, Indu, was, she might have been called the Iron Lady. She was a woman, a mother, a daughter, and a very good friend. She was not the Iron. Maybe she was an Iron Lady. I remember when she came as Prime Minister to Washington, she had to land in Williamsburg. That was a custom, that the VIP does not come straight to Washington because of the jet lag and tiredness.
Yes.
So Biju and I went to Washington, drove to Washington. She arrived. She was in a foul mood. The two boys were with her, Rajiv and Sanjay. And foul mood. Hey, ye bhi nahi thi, wo bhi nahi thi. I saw to it. She had a quiet, light dinner. I said, darling, now you go to sleep. Sone ko. Then next morning I said, Indu, tum apne baal banwa do. So I called the hairdresser. She sat on the hair dryer. And then she had a good breakfast of eggs and jo bhi khati thi. And then suddenly my husband came in and said, Madam, she said, yes, the president wants to know what to call you. Should she call you? That you don't like to be called Madam Prime Minister, should she call you? Madam Prime Minister, should she call you? Prime Minister. So Indu from that time tell the president, I don't care what he calls me. He can call me Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. But tell him also that my colleagues call me Sir. So Biju went back to the phone and told the White House. She was very human, she was a woman. Do you understand?
Yeah, a tender heart.
A tender heart, not the Iron Lady. Constantly call her the Iron Lady.
But why do you think they called her that?
Because in politics she probably was strong. Certainly the way she did. Anyway, I don't want to talk politics. She was the Iron Lady. Yes. She declared emergency, she did this. But at heart she was a woman. And she was, darling, an interior decorator. I can't forget that if suppose she came, ये क्या बात इधर ये कुर्सी क्यों उधर वो क्यों उधर इधर से उधर से इधर कमरे को ठीक कर रहे थे. I said to her once, I think you are better as an interior decorator than a prime minister. इधर करो उधर करो. It had to be beautifully done.
And she was a perfectionist in whatever she did.
Her clothes, everything.
Yes.
It is whenever she came to the northeast, where my husband was posted, she used to, today, aaj kya pehnu? Aaj kya? She used the nagas, she put in because I did the same.
Right.
I did a naga dress.
Yes.
For
Kashmir, she would go in a piran.
Then she used to change the shawls according to where we went. Because we used to go to many places.
Yes. And you travelled together. You travelled together. You were telling me an interesting story earlier of your travel in Rome together. who all were there, and what did the ladies do?
The whole story was that my husband was ordered. No one knew about it. It was a secret ship of Assam, Nagaland, Tripura, Manipur, 7 states, Arunachal, and goes High Commissioner to London. I didn't. She says, I must ask for it. I didn't want to go. I said, I love my tribals, I love my work, I do wonderful work. So I thought, with the tribals and schools and everything, I don't want to go. But once the Prime Minister asked you, you go. So she had to go to, it was summertime, she had to fly to Canada and deliver a lecture in Canada. It must have been where they speak French.
In French, right, yes.
Quebec.
Yes.
So she flew there. I said, did you telephone the ministry? Is it possible for Fori to go? But she wants to pay. She won't go. Like I paid for Jawahar, when my son Ashok, eldest, has broken his leg in Madras. He was in hospital. Jawahar happened to come. He came to the hospital. Kaise ho beta? Kaise ho beta? I said, we are leaving. Kaise ja rahe ho? Mere saath aao. He came by plane. So I insist. He was a lovable man. He did not leave. He came down first. Waited till Ashok was brought down because he couldn't walk.
That's right.
Brought down the gangway. Only then did he. But I paid for my fare and for Ashok's fare and for the doctor's fare, Dr. Natarajan, who came with us.
I want you to recall the day that Mrs. Gandhi lost Sanjay.
At that time, Biju and I were in Mussoorie because my husband had to deliver a speech or talk to the trainees of the IAS
Academy.
We arrived at night, finished the morning, here to go down. As we were going down, I went with him. He said, whoever was, sir, we have some bad news, something has happened to Mr. Sanjay Gandhi. What? In the meantime, Mrs. Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit
Pandit.
lived in Dehradun.
Yes.
She phoned, she knew we were up there. Said, Biju, pick me up, Sanjay is dead. So Biju, when my husband went into the hall and said, I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I have to leave for Delhi at once. So sent me up to pack. I packed and off we went. Because we came by car. My husband always drove himself. We had no driver. Couldn't afford one. So we picked up Mrs. Pandit, drove to Sabdarjung Road. First Mrs. Pandit went in, and they must have cried together, I don't know. Then Biju and I went in. That is when she showed her iron lady. Black glasses, nothing. And Sanjay was laid out in the Akbar Road side of one Sabdarjung. Terrible state. Then it occurred to me, I don't want to go home. I want to stay. So I sent a message with Usha Bhagat that please tell her that myself and Mrs. Kanta Dogra would like to stay. Will she agree? Message came back, yes. Can't believe it, you listen to me. Within no time, we had big gautakiyas, because it was just a big room. Nothing else, a takht. Big gautakiyas came in for us. Kambals came in for us, all on her order. Now this is a woman, no man would have shot of him, no man.
Who had just lost her son.
Only a woman. And then about Sonia and Rajiv happened to be in Italy that time, about midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning or something. So, Rajiv, we heard saying, I told that they were not crying. I told him not to do these things. I told him, you know, he did.
Not to fly, yes.
I told him, crying. So we knew that. Then she went into Indu. Sonia was outside with her children. Well, and then, of course, then I sent a message to her next day that would you permit us to look after the mail? Because she said yes, sent message. Dhawan sent us, you know, gunny sacks.
Yes.
Gunny sacks full of mail. So I saw that our cousin Raja Nehru, good in Hindi. So Kanta Dogra sat here, I sat here, Rajan sat there. We gave all the Hindi, as we took it out of the gunny bags, and we put big, like presidents and kings and we knew that will have to be replied by Mrs. Gandhi. Then to put the other thing which can be replied later. So we had these stacks. And she was grateful to us.
Did she ever share her, the deep grief and the mourning and the pain and the suffering in any way with you? Or she was just...
Her looks. I remember we sat in one Sabdarjung Road. In the garden there was Baja, and she came in with Rajiv. That look, one can't forget. Can't forget that look. Rajiv put her arms around her. You don't have to say it.
Yes, you saw it. Yes.
It was deep sorrow, very deep sorrow.
And Auntie, you never spoke about politics. What did you speak about in the moments that you shared together?
What women speak about. What, you are a woman, you know. What women speak about. Except once. I came back, that was, I think, during the emergency. We were in London, and I came back, I was with my youngest son in Chandigarh. And many people came to me and said, my son was sterilized, my father was, God alone was sterilized. I was wise. I said, give me your name, give me your telephone number. Okay. So I went to see her in any case, to say goodbye. And I said, Indu, look, you know I never talk to you about politics. Never, no. Please, look at this. These are all complaints of sterilization on young boys, on old men. You know yourself, there's no need to sterilize. So, why? She listened, looked at me. But, what but? You know, we had a complaint from the UP. And when we went into it, it turned out to be all false.
I'm just taking you back in time a bit. You were at Rajiv and Sonia's wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We just happened to come back from the United States, 1968 end. And Biju was nominated or ordered as governor of the Northeast.
Of the Northeast, yes.
All right. But we landed, our luggage landed in Chennai. And my bearer, Madan Lal, who is here with me, he stayed on in Chennai until they unloaded the thing, and we flew to Delhi to be present at her wedding. They look lovely, these two children, Sonia and Rajiv, young, in love, lovely.
And how did the bonding grow between Mrs. Indira Gandhi and then Sonia, who had just been married?
Indu relied on Sonia. To begin with, Sonia refused to wear saris or something. She wore her dresses, and Indu felt that shouldn't be like that. Then she started, you know how elegant Sonia is.
Yeah.
Then she wore saris and all that. And Indu relied on her on everything, household, clothes. If Indu wanted anything, then Sonia went to buy. Gifts, which were endless, you know, you have to give gifts. She was in charge. Sonia was in charge.
And then when the grandchildren came, tell us about Indira as a grandmother.
Love. Love the children. They were one subject. That was my old house, by the way.
Oh, how interesting.
From 47 to 49, my husband and I got that house. In those days, my husband was secretary of in the finance ministry, economic, something like that. So we had one. I planted a banana tree.
How did she unwind in the little time that she had? I mean, you know.
As it happened strangely, she used to visit us in Shillong, she used to visit us in Kashmir, Jammu. As it happened strangely, it had to be on her fast day. What was her fast day? A fruit and makhane. You know what makhane are? Those little things.
Yes.
मैंने कहा कभी तुम ऐसे भी आओ कि खाना भी खाओ, हर वक्त मकाने खाने को आती हैं, नहीं तो ऐसा हुआ.
And would she fast often?
I think it was once a month.
Once a month. Okay.
I think, I won't swear, but she loved my mother's cooking.
And she had an incredible sense of humor. Tell me the story about the nose. You know, when she got when she got hit on the nose.
She was traveling down south, and they hit her with a stone. It was an election पता नहीं किस बात की इलेक्शन हर वक्त तो ऐसा इलेक्शन और जेल और कुछ था. So she was hit with a stone and her nose was hurt. तो हमको लिखती है, all my life I hated my nose. All my life I hated it. At last I thought they will change it, but they won't.
While we're looking at this book, Auntie, tell me about all these people on the cover.
On this?
Yes.
It is edited by Mushrul Hassan.
Yes.
You know
of course. And
this is my father-in-law.
Right.
Biju's father. This is my mother-in-law, the famous Gandhian word.
Yes, yes.
This is Pandit Motilal. This is Pandit Jawaharlal. This is Baubjan, Motilal's wife, his mother. This is Mrs. Zuche, cousin. And this is a governess who was with the children.
Right.
I mean, not with him,
Yes.
but with the girls.
Yeah. What were some of the issues which you were both really deeply committed to, which you shared?
I was not committed to politics.
Social issues?
Well, sure. Sure. I remember once she came to Shillong during the Bangladesh. This is it? Yeah. Acha, dekho.
Ji.
Ye hai one of the amputees, the Mukti Bahini. This is my ADC. And this is her.
And this is yourself.
And that is me. And I'm explaining. Saddi lag rahe to donon ko. Acha, ye लाई ho. The Empress.
Oh, is that what you call this picture?
We called her. Said, Indu, you look, क्या लिखा इसमें darling, मुझसे पढ़ा नहीं जाता.
To
Biju Bai
and
Fori.
Yes, of course.
With love, Indu.
Yes.
Kiss son?
1982.
82.
Yes,
2 years
Yes.
before she left.
Yes. And you call this picture
Yeah,
Empress?
we always told her, you look like an empress.
Right. And then there's a wonderful photograph which I want you to
Which one, darling?
just look at her here. Just
This was when she came as Prime Minister to Washington. Then she went to New York. And in New York there was Partha Sarati, and his wife. They gave a reception. And Biju stands in the row. She puts out her hand. And my husband kisses it. Look at her.
Yes.
मजाक किया इन्होंने.
Yes, but you told me about something.
Biju was ashamed because he had a cigarette. My husband always had a cigarette. When he was told by the doctors, don't smoke, sir. I said, please don't smoke. He didn't want to be nagged by his wife. So, there is a reception, he saw me coming, burning cigarette he used to put into his pocket. Net result, darling, when he left us and I gave away his clothes, in endless suits, we found the hole which was hiding the cigarette from me. Acha, you know, look at the
Isn't it
look at her. Have you seen this properly?
Yes, yes, and the cigarette, especially the cigarette, but I love Mrs. Gandhi's pose. I mean, the way she's
like an empress.
Absolutely class.
Like an empress.
Absolutely.
Hannah?
Absolutely.
Now you
Look
know.
at the demeanor and the yes. And this, I know this is about your travels in Rome together. So who all are here?
This is Ambika Soni. Her husband was second secretary or first secretary, I don't
In
remember.
Rome, right.
In the embassy in Rome.
Yes.
And I had a smattering of Italian, but
Oh.
still smattering. So she was our guide. This is Ami Krishna, who I told you,
Talked
Tim
about
is
General Timaya's sister.
sister. Acha, and this is Indu, and this is me. When we went shopping. Shopping for shoes. But
and for the music for Rajiv and Sanjay.
Music for Rajiv and Sanjay. And look how she goes. Like a queen. Absolutely.
Auntie Fori, Mrs. Gandhi visited the Northeast and rather extensively. So can you recall some of those visits for us?
Very much so. She came to Shillong several times, with her children, without her children. But she had to come when the inauguration of the new states.
Yes.
One, Shillong became Meghalaya. Then we had to go to Tripura. Then we had to go to Manipur. Then we had to go, not Nagaland, because that was already a state. He became the head of 7 northeastern
states.
So she came, this was a grand tamasha. She came and she wore also, instead of a sari, she wore the dress of the state.
Right.
We had a lovely time together during that time. I can't tell you. Lovely.
What about Sonia now and Rahul and Priyanka?
Priyanka is a lovely child and Rahul a lovely child. Adorable children.
Sonia
is blessed with those two. They are in my prayers every day, darling. Oh Lord, nothing should happen to them. Nothing should happen to them. In this mad world, I don't say mad country, mad world, कोई भी उतार सकता किसी को.
I know you lost such a dear friend, and in these final closing moments to our conversation, what memories do you have of that day?
We were in Gujarat, and he was rushing. I was upstairs, and Biju had to an appointment for his teeth, a bad toothache. And he phoned me up. There's some news that something happened to Indu. So I immediately phoned Sonia's number. But Sonia was not. Nina was there. So Nina, where's Sonia? What happened? Nothing, auntie. Something bad. I said, Nina, please look after the children. That is Priyanka. Look after the children, look after the children. Then I phoned my sister-in-law. I told you, I think she has got a stroke 2.5 years ago. Phoned her, Sarup, have you heard? No, what? I said, something happened to Indu. Go! I put it on. What happened? She rushed. She found out that she's in the All India Medical. Strangely, not a soul. आराम से चढ़ी ऊपर. She got up to the anteroom and she found Sonia covered in blood. And Indu was in there. They didn't say yet that she's dead, but she was. Then Biju and I left with the first plane available from Gujarat. We got in. It was evening time. And she was in the dining room laid down on the ground. Sonia was sitting there. I was sitting next to her. Rajiv wasn't there. Rajiv was somewhere in the northeast. He arrived later. And we sat And the Hindu gate, she was there. The next morning, we were told we are to go to Teen Murti house. Might have been 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I don't remember. We drove in. Then Hindu was placed, her head high and like that. And we sat down on the ground. And then they erected bamboo, you know, from the entrance, bamboo, so that people...
The crowds were becoming larger and larger.
No crowds at that time.
Oh.
You know, those bamboo things to come. Much later, might have been 10 o'clock, I don't remember. And she became greener and greener and greener. She was bleeding inside. Then we went over to the cremation. And that was the end.
Of a friendship that you cherish so very, very much.
That was the end of Hindu. Call me sir. My colleagues call me sir.
If she was listening to you right now, what would you say to her?
Nothing. I love you. What?